welcome everybody. Thank you for coming and attending our session. My name is Janera Sorrell, and I am with the International Well Building Institute. For those of you who don't know us, we are the largest organization in the world to create health and well-being within communities, organizations, and also, of course, the built environment. And we've been at it about 10 years, and like I said before, we've created a standard that can be implemented in many different ways. We're now in over almost 6 billion square feet in about 160 countries. We work with all different kinds of organizations, ranging from Fortune 500 companies to buildings, and of course, multifamily residential buildings as well. So what we've seen is that research shows that investments in health and well-being not only benefit people, but can also benefit the bottom line. So we're good for people and planet. There we go. So organizations that invest in health and well-being have enhanced business performance. They have healthier people. People stay longer, attraction and retention of their top-tier talent. But also in multifamily residential buildings, we know that investing in health and well-being keeps tenants longer as well. And so productivity goes up, and we have reduced healthcare costs. And for real estate, as what we're talking about today, we've seen our clients get increased returns on their investment through higher rent premiums and longer occupancy rates as well. And then often when the asset trades, then there could be a premium for buildings that have engaged with us as well. So just in terms of a little bit of numbers, we see an overall tenant occupant satisfaction go up with about 26%, and then 30%, and then the health and well-being of our people goes up by about 26%. These are studies that are done by other people. We don't claim that ourselves. So we have about 60 studies that we've looked at, and if you're interested, you can ask me, and I can send you the link as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm now going to pass it to Anna Malhari from Veris, who will tell you about what she's been doing with her buildings.
Good morning, everybody. It's Anna Malhari from Veris Residential. We're vertically integrated multifamily REIT and are very focused on environmentally and socially conscious building. One of our main mottos is properties, people, and the planet. We operate over 7,000 units alongside the northeast of the US, and they're all Class A multifamily buildings with average age of only around 7 years. We'll be talking a lot today about how to weave together the environment and the social aspects together with focus on health, well-being, and nature. And the way we do it is by integrating amenities in our buildings that are focusing on all these aspects, alongside some of the harder and more maybe prominent initiatives that you may be familiar with in terms of energy efficiencies. You'll see a few pictures behind me in a minute, rotating throughout the presentation, where you'll see some of these amenities like beehives, hydroponics farming, rooftop farming, etc. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Alan?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name's Alan. I'm from Urbanstrong. At Urbanstrong, to be honest, we fight a lot, or I should say that we squabble and we tease and we mock each other a little bit. Namely, my teammates, they don't know how old I am. And in fact, they hear me say things like, I went through most of college pre-internet, and they look at me like I said, I used to ride to school on the back of a Triceratops. So there's a lot of teasing and ribbing, but two things that we can agree on. There's two driving principles at Urbanstrong. One, we believe in the power of plants to improve our buildings, companies, and communities. And two, we believe that in large, sprawling cities like New York, rooftops are the front line for the battle against the worst effect of climate change. And if we can develop these unused roof spaces to include things like green rooftop gardens, stormwater management systems, and renewable energy hubs and sustainable farms, then we believe that we can turn the tide on this pivotal battle and create truly resilient cities for the future. We do this by offering a range of green infrastructure services. So design, build, and ongoing maintenance of moss and living green walls. You may see some of our works out here on the 4th floor. Green rooftop gardens, rooftop stormwater amenity spaces, solar integrated green roofs, and then of course, because the rooftop space and building energy efficiency space can be quite complicated in terms of all the available incentives and tax breaks and local laws and mandates, we offer a suite of consulting services on how building owners can best strategize the development of their roof to achieve their goals.
That's great. So diving straight into questions, right? So what are the benefits? So of course we know it's prettier, it's people like it, but give me some real concrete benefits of doing this as of course as an owner, but also as a supplier.
Sure. So I'm going to go philosophical for a second. We, life tends to favor the proactive and punish the reactive. And this is very true when it comes to two of the biggest forces on our planet, the sun and water. Let's start with water. The same water that's raining down on our cities, if left unchecked, will max out our sewer systems, run off pollution and pollute our waterways, flood our basements, our homes, and our streets. But if we manage that water and we're proactive about it, we manage it right where it lands, up on our rooftops with spongy green roof systems, and we vegetate our rooftops, even the simplest, most basic, cheap green roof will thermally insulate our building, sequester carbon, protect the roof membrane. It's like putting a case on your smartphone. It can provide an excellent amenity space. We were all just preparing our panel, looking out over the garden, and I don't know about you guys, I felt very productive and relaxed. And funny little benefits like a green roofing when integrated under solar panels. That actually boosts the production efficiency of the solar panels. So if we control the storm water and use it to our advantage, it can be rather prosperous. Secondly, the sun. If left unchecked, a bare exposed rooftop, that sun is going to turn your roof membrane over time into Swiss cheese. It's going to thermally heat up the rooftop and drive up your AC bills, particularly for the top couple floors. If you develop your rooftop in such a way that it's intercepting the sun's photons with either the leaves of the vegetation or the solar panels or a hybrid system of the two, then we're turning the sun from a force that's acting against us into a resource.
Alan, you mentioned a lot of great benefits kind of from the environmental perspective, and green roofs are a great way for companies to help achieve their decarbonization tasks. And we certainly look at it from that perspective, but I feel like we go beyond that and look at the community aspect of some of these things. Green spaces, areas, having nature present within the spaces has been proven to help with mental health, as Janira mentioned in her opening remarks, and has a lot of other positive benefits that are a lot less tangible. And for us, things like hydroponic farming or rooftop farming are also a great opportunity to bring the residents and the community together. It's a space for them to get involved, to maybe learn how to plant something or how to harvest lettuce, but also to meet with their other residents. We have in one of our Jersey City spaces, we offer hydroponics in a space that was completely unused. It was a dead retail space. And now on a weekly basis, residents can come down and free of charge pick up a bag or two or three of lettuce or basil or something else. And we hear wonderful stories from them about taking their children and their grandchildren down and spending the day there together. Or maybe they pick up something, they go up, they cook a meal, and they come back downstairs and share it with the team there that's helping with the harvest. And all together, it just helps to create a community feel of that building and make the buildings more equitable and more welcoming to all of our residents.
And then people stay longer.
Yeah, people stay longer.
Yeah, there you go. That's part of the ROI as well. So in terms of like benefits, besides the ones that we mentioned, I know, Alan, we talked about the benefits of creating resilient cities, right? So it's not only specific to a specific building, but it can go beyond, and it's like a community-wide benefit as well. You want to speak to that a little?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. There's myriad of studies have shown that sight lines to nature, access to nature, will improve your mental health. You don't have to be a, tree-hugging hippie to benefit physiologically and mentally from a connection with nature. And we know this intuitively. I mean, none of us, when we're feeling stressed, say, hey, let's go hang out in Times Square for 6 hours. We want to get out, we want to go connect with nature, even if you just a walk through the woods, or camping, or a cabin, a lakeside cabin, or whatnot. But I don't like the idea. I like to go camping for a week at a time. The best part is no cell service, but I also like the trees and the canoeing. But I really don't like the idea that the cities and nature are so mutually exclusive.
Right.
I think we need these breaks. We need these connections with nature every day, not only on a walk to work, but in
It
where
creates better resiliency, right, at the end of the day, for both people and the city.
Oh, absolutely. It's been proven to reduce crime rates as well. There's been studies have shown. So unfortunately, in certain, socioeconomically depressed neighborhoods, there also happens to be a strong correlation to a lack of green space and tree-lined streets. And so adding green infrastructure in the form of visible living walls that everybody can see, be they indoor and public spaces, or on outdoor living walls, or publicly accessible green rooftops or rooftop farms, calms the mind, builds community, as Anna was saying, can reduce crime rates. It's wonderful for community resiliency.
Yeah, and fewer traffic incidents, I read somewhere as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, with tree-lined streets.
I would personally, if I was driving through the city and I saw a living wall, I'd personally crane my neck and probably hit somebody, but that's just me.
And it's Climate Week, and biodiversity in general is becoming a huge topic.
Sure.
In fighting climate change. And I think having diverse biodiversity in the gardens and rooftops, etc. We've introduced beehives in a number of our properties recently as another element to enhance biodiversity and really bring some more of the nature back in these urban areas that are very densely populated and have limited park space and other garden space very often.
Right. So our audience is very active.
Okay.
Oh.
So I have a few questions. So could you talk about the opportunities and risk of new building materials such as concrete that uses hemp fiber? Do you have any of that? Hemp fiber?
I can speak about concrete tangentially. I can't address that question directly. We should be trying to eliminate concrete where we can, but it's tough. It's an extremely useful material. One small little anecdote is that with solar integrated green roofs, the sum of the material list is less than the total sum of the integrated material list is less than the sum of the two individual lists that you would need for green roofs and solar. They share material, and one thing that can be eliminated is the cinder blocks that are used currently to weigh down solar panel racking systems. You don't want them to blow away, but at the same time you don't want to drill these racking systems down into the roof membrane to potentially create leaks. And so if you have a standard solar array, the hot tech is to literally weigh it down with rocks. I do get a kick out of the dichotomy of the hot tech of solar being weighed down by the caveman tech of rocks, but that's literally how they do it. And so when you have a solar integrated green roof, you can actually eliminate the cinder blocks, and you have the greenery and all the engineered media and all the layers of the green roof act as the ballast, and they weigh down the racking. And this is proven even in New York City hurricane zones and whatnot. So, and that those cinder blocks would have had an embedded significant carbon footprint, particularly since they're going to sit there for like 25 years. So if you can eliminate that, that's very useful. That's my anecdote about concrete.
I think the question goes to kind of trying to implement more sustainable circular materials. And when we build,
Right.
the build industry does represent over 40% of the carbon footprint. So it's really great to see that there is a lot of innovation where people are trying to address these problems with embedded carbon through innovative areas, new types of concrete that will be, if not net zero, at least a lot more beneficial to the environment overall.
Right. And so if we can, we should, right? Then there's another question about financing all this. So can you speak about the opportunities? Oh no, hold on. The question disappeared. But anyway, so basically, how do you fund this is what it comes down to. And are there better financing terms available when you do implement these kinds of measures, right? So sustainable bonds, sustainable loans. Do you see that in your corporate financing? And then do you create these opportunities as well?
I think there's two layers of the green financing available. One of them is, as you mentioned, kind of more at the corporate level when you're procuring, be it a corporate facility or maybe specific mortgage loans for the individual properties. There is a lot of instruments out there these days that link your performance on the ESG front to how low your margins are. And there's real benefits, real monetary benefit from securing those. And companies with corporate targets can achieve these, I would say, relatively easily because it's spread out over a 5-10 period, even longer depending on the loan. But I think there's also a lot of money available at the more project-specific level, and I think, Alan, you will be able to speak to that in more detail. There's a lot of incentives out there, not just with respect to the things we're talking about today, but smart thermostat, carbide heat pumps, solar in general, EVs charging station. There's a lot of incentives at state and sometimes even federal level and other levels available to owners and operators and vendors to achieve, to get, to make a lot of these measures a lot more cost effective. I think there is a very common misconception that advancing sustainability in the built environment is something very costly and we shouldn't do it because it's sunk cost. There's a lot of opportunities and great outcomes which we discussed today, but even from a monetary perspective, I strongly believe it's good for business. You can get some money back through a lot of the incentives, but as Janira, you mentioned multiple times, tenants tend to stay longer. It starts to be really proven that they would pay premiums on their rents or the value of the building, or that we will see a brown discount in the near future. So taking advantage of these schemes, being proactive, and integrating in your business plans will be really good for the business and ROIs in the long term.
We encourage our clients when they approach us and say, hey, we'd like a green roof, oh, but it looks so expensive, or we'd like to go solar, but we don't have the 100K upfront cost, even if there is a proven payback of 2.5 years. And I encourage them to think a little bit more holistically and look throughout their building. And frankly, I no longer have to encourage them. Local laws being passed in New York, like Local Law 97, is basically mandating that buildings improve their building energy efficiency. And I say, don't think of your rooftop as a silo. One of the first questions when people call up and they ask about, where could they find financing for these rooftop systems, I say, how old is your boiler? And they don't know where I'm coming from, and then I explain that, we'll arrange for them to have an energy audit, and this is where energy engineers will crawl basement to rooftop, measure and photograph and document everything, and then present back to them a list of all the different energy efficiency retrofit opportunities, but they rank this list according to what's called the savings to investment ratio. Basically, which of the incentives are going to give you the best bang for your buck in emissions reduction, overall efficiency improvement. And then we take the top most lucrative retrofits and we bundle them all together and we bring this lump sum to a financier where we can get better terms for them. People don't realize sometimes that something like a green rooftop, or as we were discussing earlier, a rooftop farm, even if they only wanted to grow food or if they only want to create a lush green amenity space to drink a rosé wine spritz and watch the sunset, that green roof amenity space is performing a whole suite of environmental services and improving the energy efficiency of the building. It counts as an energy efficiency retrofit, so you bundle it with an LED lighting upgrade, a building automation system, and maybe electrifying your HVAC system. Bundle it all together, think comprehensively, and you can get much more attractive terms. And I should mention that a lot of the financing out there, so many more options, and lenders have descended on New York City and other cities that are implementing these energy efficiency mandates because they know that people are going to be forced to make these retrofits and they don't necessarily have the capital laying around, even if it's got a proven ROI. So there's lots of options available, and a lot of the time they can be set to where the payments, the repayment on these loans is less than what your savings are in that same year after implementing it. So you're always cash flow positive. lots of options are out there, and people shouldn't be afraid.
But then building on that, right? So this is all environmental and carbon reduction. What about the social part, right? So how do we justify the social part that all these strategies are an implementation of the strategies? Like, so we're going to go raise capital, but now how, from a social perspective, how do you justify it?
Engineered social is a very broad topic,
Right,
and
or well-being.
we also like always like that's what I want to say, that often like traditionally under the S in ESG people think about D&I only, and forget that it's a lot more. It's around the well-being, around health, etc. And that's becoming increasingly important for all your stakeholders. We all went through COVID and the increased focus on health and well-being in our space. Suddenly everyone cared about the air quality in their office space and their homes to the extent we didn't before. Those of you who are from New York or the Northeast, we've been through that smoke from Canadian wildfires that was here a few months back, and all of a sudden we all knew how to check air quality on our iPhones, something we never even knew was there before. So there is more and more focus on it. We regularly survey our residents about sustainability more broadly. And air quality and health and well-being are ranking very high on their priorities when they decide to where to spend their time. It's even more important for them in a leased environment when they're renting. Because unlike when you own your home and you can adjust, you can change the materials, you can prioritize certain things. In a rented accommodation, you don't really have the choice. It's up to your landlord what type of paint they're used or if their air quality is sufficient. So they do really appreciate that we are focused on it, and that's where we love partnering up with well and having that external seal, the third party verification of our efforts in a way that's easily understandable to our stakeholders.
And people, I mean, plants were trending on Instagram well before COVID, but then we saw a sharp increase. Our living wall division saw a sharp increase during COVID of inquiries because people were suddenly, as you were saying, Anna, like evaluating where they live and where they work and saying, you know, is this space healthy for me, both mentally and from an air quality perspective? And people, you know, they like an opportunity to connect with nature, and something like a living wall garden in your lobby. If you walk through something like this, we built this for a client in Union City, New Jersey, and if you Union Beach, New Jersey, sorry. If you start and end your day walking past a living wall like that in the lobby of where you work or where you live, it's an excellent opportunity to connect with nature. And you'll notice that, I'm sure you've seen the same thing with your buildings, when a unit goes up for sale or up for rent and it's listed on StreetEasy or some real estate site, if there's a living wall in the lobby or a green rooftop garden or your farm anywhere in that building, it's one of the leading images on the listing. It's a great way for buildings to differentiate themselves on the marketplace. I understand that marble is beautiful and I appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into it, but raise your hand if in the last 5 years you've ever walked into a lobby and said, ooh, look at that marble wall, and pulled out your phone and taken a selfie next to a slab of marble. But if you could stand against this, I mean, actually Nest had us build literally a moss selfie wall in the pavilion there for exactly this reason. So people like it, they appreciate it, and it would be a great way to differentiate a building on the marketplace. And same thing with a commercial environment. Offices are looking to bring their workforce back, bring the work from home community back in. And marble walls aren't going to do it, but a living wall garden or access to a green roof or a hydroponic farm at the office space is the new air hockey table of the workplace environment to lure these people back into the workplace.
Right. It's definitely a differentiator and talking point. We have the hydroponics there somewhere, and the lights are so bright. It's like pink fluorescent lights that when people walk by, it's visible from the street. It's just like, oh, what is this? And then they read about it and they're intrigued. And even if they live elsewhere, it just makes them more curious about how to do something like that and more connected.
Do you then sell any of this to retail? Is it a retail space?
We give them out for free to all of our residents.
Right, and you have honey too, right?
We don't have honey yet. We're very close. We're gonna have our first honey this fall, so we're very excited.
Yeah.
But even though we're trying to activate that space, the beehives are not directly accessible, but we do events with the third party that does them for us, where people could see that there is honey grown on in the beehives, and they'll be able to actually visit the beehives in a few months.
Yeah. So about that, we have a question. It seems that this requires many different systems to integrate, like data, structure, water management, greenery, clean tech, and of course, everything else that is not necessarily included here. How difficult is this to commercially, but I guess the question is, how difficult is this to scale so that it impacts like a larger number of people and makes a real dent in what we're trying to achieve?
We spoke about the more scale you can do, the actually better. It's almost harder to do this on a small scale in a single building. And like, we're an asset owner, it's not our primary business to do these things. So we do find partners that are aligned with us and that help us step by step roll these initiatives portfolio wide. There's a lot of companies out there that whatever piece of this you want to integrate will help you, walk you through it, and will, as you mentioned, like try tailor it to your capital possibilities and to what you're trying to achieve. Because I feel like sustainability is a collective sport. We're all in this together and we all want to help each other. So feel free to reach out to any of us. We are happy to help here and tell you more about how we go to where we go to.
Yeah, all of our designs and Honest Team's designs, they're all very flexible and can be customized. Within the world of green walls, there's, fully irrigated living wall gardens that need grow lights and special plumbing and irrigation and whatnot. But then if someone wants the option to connect with nature, but doesn't have the means, or maybe they're renting and they're going to be moving out soon and they don't want to make that investment in the infrastructure, we have a preserved greenery line that offers, a connection with nature, but it's easily removed and retrofitted into a space. And similarly, with a green roof, there's a spectrum of green roofs. You have the simple, shallow, lightweight, cheap, and fairly low maintenance, but they still achieve the low-hanging fruit of sequestering carbon, managing stormwater, thermally insulating the building, complying with local laws. But if you say, look, we want this green roof to be a little nicer, we're going to sit out, or it's a garden space or an amenity space for a hotel or a multifamily building, then we can scale it up and have it be a little deeper, a little heavier, but more attractive, a broader palette of plant species. Requires
or vegetables, right?
Or vegetables, yeah. I mean, my ideal green roof is some of it integrated with solar, a corner of it is for urban farming, and a plot where the residents can, grow their own tomatoes and have a little salsa competition once a year, and then an amenity deck in the corner so that people can sit out and connect with it and enjoy it.
Yeah. So what's the biggest obstacle that you come across, like your investors maybe? Who's the biggest, like, what's holding it back from like not being everywhere? And then obviously from a technical perspective.
Education and awareness, which is why we're really glad to be up here disseminating this info. There's a lot of old info. A lot of decision makers, when they hear the word solar panels, they think about Jimmy Carter era solar panels when he put them up on the White House, and the return on the payback period was like 15, 20 years. You were basically making a donation to the environment and never see that money again. Even, I mean, we've been selling solar systems for about 10 years now, and when I started, the average payback period here in New York was 6, 7, 8, 9 years. We're now issuing solar proposals with a 2-year payback, but people don't know this. A lot of the co-op and condo boards I present to, they have no idea. They made up their mind about solar 10 years ago. No, don't want to hear it. So opening their minds, getting them to understand the true facts, case studies, testimonials, just getting the word out there. The technology's out there, the payback is out there, the multifaceted benefits of all these systems are out there. We just need awareness raising.
And then there's local law 97, all this like government incentives are out there.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many options out there. We touched base on only a few things today, so I don't think it means you have to do everything at once, but just depending on what buildings you have where you want to prioritize, just start somewhere and build up from there, because then you'll be more aware, your employees will be more aware, more focused on it, your tenants, your other stakeholders. And so I feel like it's a step-by-step process, but it's not that difficult to start if you have the right mindset.
Great. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. We knew this would go really fast. Anyway, thank you for coming, and thank you, Anna, and thank you, Alan, for your insights. And if you want to talk to us, just come up to us, and we'll be happy to answer any more of your questions.
Thank you.